Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the latest video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the part of the fantasy football roster that people hate outside of tight ends, which is the kickers. And it's actually gotten to the point where there are more and more fantasy leagues that are getting rid of the kicker position. But I still play in leagues that have the kicker position. I don't mind them. Special teams are a part of the game. So as a guy that loves the whole building of a roster, a general manager aspect, I like having kickers in fantasy football. Now I say that knowing that in a couple months I'm going to lose a fantasy football matchup because someone's kicker got 20 plus points, and I understand the annoyance for the position in fantasy football. But I've always tried to figure out an approach for it, and I think I'm not saying I've solved it by no means, but there is something I've noticed over the last couple of years of looking into the past years. Fantasy performance by kickers, and maybe a way that you can approach your kickers. Now, I will go ahead and say this. I don't draft kickers early. I spend my last draft pick on a kicker, and I spend my second to last pick on a defense I plan on streaming in week one, because I am a streaming defensive type of guy, and I'll do one of those videos of defenses you should leave your draft with here within the next couple of weeks, once we get a better idea who these opening day starters are going to be for some of these teams. But let's stay focused on the topic, kickers, right? So let's take a look really quick at who the top 10 kickers in fantasy football were for 2022. As you can see, Justin Tucker, number one. But you look at his offense, they finished with 20.6 points per game. That's 18th. Now, when you look at this whole list, only 2 out of the 10 kickers' offenses finished in the top 5 points per game. So the way I view kickers in fantasy is you want your kicker tied to like a solid offense, but you don't want your kicker tied to the best offense in the league, because what happens is those offenses always score touchdowns. So what happens? Those offenses score 4 or 5 touchdowns, or 3 to 5 touchdowns a game, but you're only going to get 3 to 5 points because you're only getting the extra points. What you want to do is you want to try to find an offense that you think is going to be good to move the ball well enough between the 20s. But once they get closer to that red zone, they're going to like stutter, and they're going to have to settle for field goals for whatever reason is going wrong with their offense, where they cannot finish drives with touchdowns. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and even look back at when I did this video last year. Only 1 out of the 10 kickers that finished inside the top 10 had a top 5 offense as far as points per game. And then when you look at top 10 for this year, only 4 out of the 10 kickers that finished in the top 10 have offenses that had a top 10 point per game average. And then when you look in 2021, there were 6 of the 10 teams that had a top 10 offense. And then when you look at the majority of this year's last year's offense, 6 out of the 10 finished in that 11 to 19 range. And then in 2021, it was 4 out of the 10. So you're kind of wanting that like that top 6 to 15 offense. But like I said, we saw last year where Justin Tucker had the 18th most points per game offense. He finished as the number 1 kicker. Daniel Carlson was the number 2 kicker, and their offense averaged the 11th highest points per game. So the way I view it is you wanted to try to do your best to project which kickers are going to be tied to an offense that are going to be able to put up points, but they're going to have times throughout the games where they're not going to be able to get those touchdowns like I keep on mentioning. Now, I rated top 12 kickers that I would take with my last pick of the draft. Obviously, Justin Tucker's number 1 on this list. Obviously, he finished last year as number 1, but at the end of the day, it's Justin Tucker. So there's going to be somebody in your league that probably takes him a lot earlier than they should be taking a kicker. And then I like Jason Myers again this year to finish inside the top 10, because I do like what that Seattle offense is going to bring. I think they're going to be able to move the ball quite often. And then I like the Giants. Now, I think Graham Gano for the Giants, the reason why I like him as a kicker this year is I think their offense is going to be a lot better with Darren Waller, but they don't really have a lot of size in their wide receiver room. And, outside of Darren Waller, he's kind of like their only legit red zone threat as a big guy for Daniel Jones to throw the ball to. So I can see them having to settle for field goals a lot this season. And then I threw Matt Gay on there because I think this Colts offense is going to be a lot better than it was last year. They did give Matt Gay the biggest contract for a kicker in NFL history, And the reason why is I think you're going to see this offense be able to move the ball with Anthony Richardson and his legs. But with him being a rookie quarterback, he's going to have his struggles, right? He's going to have to learn how to squeeze balls into these tighter windows when as the field gets more condensed, as the offense gets closer. So that's why I think this Colts offense under Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson are going to be able to move the ball. I just see there's going to be a lot of struggles throughout the season where they're not able to finish those drives with touchdowns, which could end up leading to Matt Gay being one of these top fantasy kickers. And the same thing goes with Younghoe Koo. For the Falcons. The Falcons offense has all these playmakers, but to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest believer in Desmond Ridder. We'll have to see what he can become, but he has so much talent around him where he should be able to move the ball. But again, that's a young quarterback that's going to have to learn how to be an effective quarterback in the red zone. So I see that Falcons offense stuttering and having to settle for field goals throughout games. Now, I'm going to go ahead and group these next guys. Evan McPherson, Tyler Bass, and Harrison Butker. They're really good kickers that are tied to great offenses. Now, you might end up being with a kicker that's in a top 5 offense, but at least you know that he's going to be in scoring range. But it would be malpractice of me to not have him on the list, even though I think they're tied to offenses that have a really good chance of finishing in the top 5. And then you got Eddie Pinheiro with the Panthers. I think Bryce Young and that offense is going to be able to move the ball. And similar like what I said about Anthony Richardson and even Desmond Ridder, Bryce Young is a young quarterback. He's going to have to work on the red zone game as that offense grows throughout the season. And I can see Eddie Pinheiro, who finished in the top 10 last year, be able to finish in the top 10 for fantasy. Now, another guy to keep in mind is that rookie kicker that was drafted in the 3rd round for the 49ers, Jake Moody. Last year, Robbie Gould finished in the top 10. They averaged the 6th most points per game. And then you got this 49ers offense where it looks like it's going to be Brock Purdy, but who knows? I think we're going to see all 3 quarterbacks for the 49ers at some point of this year, which could lead to inconsistency in that 49ers offense where they're struggling closer to the red zone and having to settle for those field goals. We got Brandon McManus tied to the Jaguars. That Jaguars offense is going to be a lot better with the addition to Calvin Ridley, so I see that Jaguars team being in position to kick these field goals often throughout games. And then I got to leave Daniel Carlson on the list. He finished as the number 2 kicker. You're probably wondering, why is he all the way down at 12? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. As great as of a kicker as he has a strong leg, so that's why I still think he's worthy of a pick, because I'm hoping they can at least get in that 50-yard range. But man, I'm telling you right now, the Jimmy Garoppolo experience with the Raiders offense, I'm not a big fan of it. And we already know Jimmy Garoppolo has a rich injury history, and their backup quarterbacks are rookie Aiden O'Connell, and they have Brian Hoyer. So anything happens to Jimmy, I think that Raiders offense is going to struggle, and I can see them not being able to get Daniel Carlson in that field goal range. But with him being that type of talent, he's definitely worth a shot, because at the end of the day, we'll get a good gauge of what these offenses look about that 4 to 6 week range. And then if you're seeing that your kicker's not giving you a good average in the first 4 to 6 weeks, that's when you can pivot and start to look at these offenses and who's kind of looking like they're going to be that like 6 to 15, 19, maybe late, like that 19 points per game average. You can look at their kicker if they're available and they are been putting up points throughout the beginning of the year. That's when you can swap out and make a move like that. But yeah, that is my approach to kickers. I know we all don't love the position, but if we're going to have to draft them, we got to start at least trying to figure out a way to find the right kicker that can give you huge weeks throughout the season. So yeah, that's the video. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it, subscribe to the channel, make sure you give me a follow. My next set of videos, I'm going to go ahead and just start dropping my rankings. So I'm going to give you guys my quarterback rankings at some point later this week. But I'm going to get out of here. You guys enjoy your day or night whenever you're watching this. Peace out.